This show is sponsored by Mighty Capital, the go-to venture capital firm for product-first companies like Airbnb and Amplitude. Learn why they are dubbed the best value for the dollar invested at mighty.capital. I'm SC Moadi, founder and chair of Products That Count, a 501c3 nonprofit engaging over 500,000 product managers. Our mission is simple: help you build great products through groundbreaking research, prestigious awards, and top-notch programming like this award-winning Top 1% podcast. Whether you're aiming to boost your career or turn your product team into a competitive advantage, this is your gateway. Visit productsthatcount.org and begin your product leadership journey. This particular series is hosted by one of the first chief product officers in the world, Renee, Niemi, and each episode is a masterclass in product leadership. Renee, over to you.
Good afternoon. I have with me today Mike Jozwik. Mike is the Chief Product Officer of Euromonitor. Mike, so great to have you and to be chatting with you. Been looking forward to this. How does it feel to be one of the best CPOs in the world?
It feels great. I've been able to talk to many of my colleagues, and I'm excited and honored to be a part of this process. I feel like I've learned a lot from talking to other CPOs, and so I think it's a real honor.
Yeah, well, it's well deserved. As you know, you and I talk quite often, and I'm a little biased, but that's why I'm so excited to have this chat with you today. So let's go ahead and kick this off. Why don't we start by having you, in 60 seconds or less, share a little bit about you. Maybe you can share with the listeners who and what Euromonitor does and your role within Euromonitor.
Sure. Euromonitor is a data publishing firm, and we publish data and insights around the world for primarily FMCG firms and services organizations to get a sense for sort of their size and share in over 200 different countries and 30 different industries. So companies use our information to set out their global strategies and then understand where to unlock new opportunities, and then also to track those things over time and understand how they're doing against their competition. I've been with the business for over 20 years. I started off as a commercial participant doing sales, and then moved over into our custom services department and sort of grew up there. And then over time, as we started to productize pieces of our service, it was a natural extension into overseeing the wider product portfolio that we have in place. And that's what I do today.
That's fantastic. I had forgotten that your journey came in through that sales customer centricity route.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's wonderful, because so many chief product officers, traditionally come up through more of a tech route, and more we're starting to see less traditional routes. And because at the end of the day, chief product officer is a business role, as you know. So I'll have to spend some time on some of those stories from
absolutely. Yeah, and I do think it is sort of foundational to the way I think about the job, for sure. So yeah.
Well, let's dive in. As you know, the role of chief product officer has really gone through an enormous amount of change. Honestly, starting with the pandemic, where especially non-traditionally digital companies were forced to become digital, or honestly becoming relevant during the pandemic. And then we went through some uncertain economic times, and now we're kind of going through, we'll just call it the AI revolution. And every one of these journeys, the chief product officer has really been front and center on that journey, and has played a very important role in the C-suite. I would love your perspective on how that has kind of impacted your focus and what you've seen during those times and those major milestones over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my sense is that as I see it, and maybe this is maybe going right back to where I started. My sense is that um, the role of CPO is growing within organizations, and I think maybe where it was about certain functions, certain product functions before, it's expanded, and in some days, and I know I've talked to you about this before. Um, it feels that the CPO's role and setting strategy for the business are getting closer and closer together over time. Maybe that was the CMO in the past. I'm not sure, but it feels like right now um, that if you're sort of living and breathing what your clients' sort of urgent, expensive problems are, then you have a pretty good idea of where you want to shape your product, your service, and your focus. And so what I've seen is that I think where I tried to have more separation with the commercial teams 4 or 5 years ago, I see us getting closer and closer to those teams now. Now, not in all aspects of my role. I still think there's some good moments where you keep those things really separate. But I see us leading into marketing and commercial teams more than we did before. And then the second thing I'd say is that I think having a better understanding of the financials of the business has helped me shape our product and understanding what we can or cannot do from the technology perspective. So I would say second there for me is just getting into the basics, spending more time with the CFO and the financials of the business to understand what we can do in the short or the medium and the long term in a better way. So those are sort of how I've sort of, I guess, absorbed the massive changes over the last few years.
Yeah, I have to imagine that how you think about what was traditionally almost a consulting services business, and the fact that there's even a CPO at the helm to begin with, was the first big transformation, right?
Yeah,
How hard
absolutely.
was it to get a company that's been around and steeped and enriched in services to start thinking like a product? Is that hard?
It was difficult, I would say. I think that it was either we sort of had two extremes. I would say like we had certain commercial teams where it was just more feature led selling, and then on the opposite side, I think it was really driving capabilities and just sort of why, and this really deep consultative service, which had its place, right? But then just meant everything was extremely tailored and ad hoc, and so sort of creating a solution mindset or a product led approach was hard work, and I think it came down to being really careful with it's a little boring, but like defining that value proposition and spending so much time there in the beginning, and really understanding what that pain was, what our right to win was. It took time, and it probably honestly took longer than we needed because I think people could still make money the other way. They could still make money by selling capabilities and really over tailoring stuff, but we couldn't scale. Essentially, we weren't able to sort of break through that next level of growth, and so yeah, I think it took effort. It took some incentive changes, but we got there.
Do you have any interesting stories in that journey where, like, or aha moments where you were like, "Oh, I am so glad we did this. They finally got it," or maybe
Yeah.
it would be true.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I loved about making the switch is I think that when we were just really focused on these super tailored solutions, we were selling ourselves, we were selling that capability, but we weren't really working towards a system of relationship moving forward. And I think one of the unlocks that I had at a certain point was, and when I knew it was really working was when we started to consistently get to about the 75% mark in any of the projects that we were doing or any of the services we were offering. And we knew what the next problem was ahead of time. And we were able to sort of position that as a way to continue the relationship where we knew we had a right to win and it had value. And it felt so natural, and it built up an installed base of revenue for us that really I think sort of enhanced the relationship in a way that I think many people feared that it would not do if we were too product led and too focused in that area. So that was cool.
Yeah, I have to imagine, because you came through that lens or that journey of, sales and customer support, that well, you're going to have a heck of a lot of empathy for the sales teams going through that journey.
Yeah.
And I also have to imagine that that you're going to have that customer empathy, because you can't stop. You really can't turn that customer lens off, can you?
No, not at all. And also maybe working to train an organization that a good no could be just as powerful and just as strong for a relationship as saying yes, I think was piece of that puzzle too.
I really like that. That's very quotable. A good no can be as strong as a good yes. Ooh, I have to remember that one. All right. Good one. This year, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier the revolution of the AI, and obviously there's so many layers, so many things going on. One of the challenges as a chief product officer is you got to keep the train on the tracks and keep executing the plan. You need to make sure the tracks are laid down well to build on that analogy, but you also need to make sure that you're worrying about, the what's next stage. So with all of that as a landscape and a background, like what does this year look like for you? How are you going to be spending your time and, allocating your precious cycles?
Yeah. One of those things you've hit right on the head, which is, we have a generative AI program. Like I said, our business delivers a very large amount of data and analysis to our clients. And so just working to make sure that that's a searchable, accessible tool with generative AI functionality is sort of number one on my list right now. It just makes sense. It's what our clients are demanding. It's going to be the new way that people, take information in and link it to other forms of information. So that's really focus for really the first half of the year. We've sharpened our service strategy and the service tiers that we have in place. And so rolling that out is sort of number two, and putting a little more differentiation between the types of service that we offer to different tiers of accounts is something that we're also putting out, because I think this is also a time in which we need to be smart about the human capital that we're using, where we use it. So sort of sharpening that as we balance technology with human capital. And then the third program we're doing is maybe sort of, I would say this is where my role starts to blend into somewhere between a CPO and a COO. But we've created and now are driving a 3-year strategy to sort of modernize those foundational inputs that feed our core product. And so we're revolutionizing that in a way that's maybe a little more operational, a little more structural in what we need to get out of it. But yeah, we started those inroads. So those are the 3 big things for me.
Yeah. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversations around AI, and it doesn't surprise me that the very first initiative or strategic effort this year for you is to use kind of that generative AI front end to access your data. A lot of folks have been kind of quoted as saying that that those with the biggest data lake wins.
Yeah.
And so how transformative and serendipitous has this been for you and your organization? And did you, like, when all of this came out, like how did you onboard this, and did you have to pivot, or was this already on your on your radar?
So number one, it's a huge opportunity, and it is serendipity, like that we're sitting on a huge amount of data and really had been trying to find ways to to put that all into a data lake and make it more accessible and surface it in a faster amount of time. Those are things that we've been using sort of large language models to do since 2017 or whatever, a little before. So we're sitting on a lot of data scientists, we're sitting on a lot of data engineers, and we're sitting on a lot of code and fine-tuned large language models that are already brought us part of the way. And then sort of, I would just say that that it all exploded so rapidly and then made it potentially way easier and way harder at the same time. Was really exciting. I mean, it's a thrilling time to sort of reimagine these problems that we've been sort of facing, and we felt like maybe didn't have a breakthrough, and now we suddenly do. It's like, where do we start is maybe the hardest question to answer, right? And so, to me, I think it's a two-pronged approach. There's some easy efficiencies to be done right now. I would say if you're talking about like, how do you win right now? There are just ways to do things way faster, and you should be focused. Like, I think for the next year, you can make huge efficiency gains by just applying more generative AI and large language models to what you're doing. But then I think you've also then got to be thinking about the midterm and really about how this is going to unlock all these different outcomes for our clients and the way that they're fundamentally going to use this information. That's important too. So I think it's a balance of those two things, and maybe neither is quite as straightforward as you'd think. And Renee, I know we talked about this a little last time, but I would still say that as you look for efficiencies and you want to let go of low value ideas and replace them with high value actions, I would say that like some of the ways that humans do low value work or high value work still incorporates low value work. And so, for example, if I'm analyzing some business results and I have to write a small report on that or put a PowerPoint together, some of the ways that I analyze that are by visually just manipulating the PowerPoint, for example. Yeah. And if I have something that makes that for me instantaneously, I have to learn a new way to analyze, essentially. And there's a little bit of a time lag there, or a training or an upskilling moment that I think is maybe being undervalued right now or misunderstood. So I think some of these big gains still require more effort to get to depth.
Yeah. I absolutely 100% agree. You don't know what you don't know. There's the obvious, right? I've thought it all through. I just need to find a way to articulate. No brainer. Let's just have AI help us with that, articulating the ideas. But when you're still formulating the ideas and you're trying to figure out the best way to present it, sometimes it's that, I know exactly what you're saying. It's that journey of going through and ideating and looking. And I know a great example of this is once upon a time when I created a vision, I must have iterated that vision 20 times before we locked and loaded on it. And some of that was the way I presented it. Then I would put it in front of, my team. They would give me feedback, and then I would rejigger it. And like that process of going through the different teams and reimagining things. And I don't think that ever goes away, does it?
No, it doesn't. And because we're a business that operates in IP, it's really important that as we think through these things and how to connect all of our ideas to our clients' ideas, that we maintain that that intellectual property in some way. And so I do feel like the market research industry overall, or the wider publishing industry, is starting to unlock those ideas. But that's been interesting to watch as business leaders and lawyers and government sort of work to figure out that best path forward. So that's been fun.
What has been the highest impact, immediate surprise that you've either personally experienced or watched somebody experience using AI?
Some of our researchers, watching what they're able to do now by sort of by using those aggregator and summary tools is remarkable. It's amazing how fast and smart you can get on a subject now. That something that used to take 6 months to really immerse yourself in the knowledge really has sped up dramatically, and it's exciting. I mean, I think it just means you can make better decisions way faster than you could have before.
But does it also mean that the bar is lowered?
It does mean the bar is lower. Yeah, for sure. And when we started to talk about HI, more and more, and what human intelligence needs to be focused on versus artificial intelligence. I don't think it contextualizes very well today. Right now it's still not there, and so I think it's about making sure that those connections are wider, not necessarily deeper. I think artificial intelligence is going to crush us going deep on certain data sets or certain pieces of information. I think it's just great at that. But I think when you're connecting wider and wider things, it's got a ways to go.
Yeah. Interesting. I really do believe that AI impacts certain industries quicker and in a more meaningful way than others. And I'm a big believer that that your industry is one of those big impact areas. So can't wait to see what's next.
I know, me too. Yeah, it's fun.
Shifting gears, I would love to learn a little bit more about your journey. I know that on your path to your current role and at your current level, you must have a lot of stories. Some of them are, I would imagine most of them are amazing and stories of success, but sometimes the biggest learning comes from when it didn't all go well. I would like for you just to share us a defining story on your journey.
Yeah. I think in general, maybe two things come to mind. One, I would say you probably maybe the roughest client experience or is probably the one in which you learn the most, I would say. And so I can think of many disastrous client presentations or things where we fundamentally didn't deliver. I think the hardest ones are when you miss the mark because you didn't actually understand the assignment to begin with, and you do great work but you answer the wrong client question. And I can remember we were putting together a huge longitudinal study for a packaging company, and we spent 3 months putting together a very robust study, methods, 50 countries, hundreds of people working on it. And when we got to the so what presentation to the C-suite, very quickly we understood that they were focused on one, in a whatever, a 50 slide presentation, they were focused on one, like slide 36. Slide 36 is all they cared about. We had buried the lead and we'd not focused on it. And it was sort of sitting there as we uncovered what they cared about. There were, all the sort of clues came like rushing to my brain, and like, oh, we got this wrong and we didn't study the right thing. And it is just a stark reminder to, measure twice, cut once, make sure you really have empathy for where the client is. And also that you are, that you're trying to speak the client's language as best you can when you're communicating to them. Because I think sometimes clients will communicate a need in their own language, and you have to be ready to translate that into something that your organization can do.
Yeah, no kidding. So don't leave us hanging. What happened?
and a very stern talking to. And luckily, I feel like we had enough strands within that slide 36 that we were able to get through it. And then we sort of pivoted hard for about 3 weeks and then had a smaller presentation to a smaller group of the C-suite. And they were, I would just say, satisfied with the end result. I can't say that we didn't get a round of applause, but we did get the job done. So that's good.
Oh my goodness. That's a tough lesson learned. I bet you didn't do that one twice.
No, for sure.
Great story though. And it also just, it just really defines on how it is like applying a services related mistakes to product. Had you made that same mistake on not one client, but a major product that went across all your clients, could you imagine?
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, we've been there too, Renee. I think we've launched products that aimed for the middle, that didn't quite understand that end customer need, and you're just not sure why it's not landing, and it's just because you didn't quite take the care or put the proper emphasis on the voice of customer or that detailed segmentation, and you sort of get it wrong. The other one that I would highlight briefly, if you want, is that we've put out a sustainability product, a product that studied the market potential of sustainability products, and it has floundered to date. It is currently floundering. Always a midterm play, we sort of knew, but this is one of those moments where I learned pretty clearly that what customers say and what customers do with their money is two different things, for sure. And so that might be a study that's made, or a product that's just a few years before its actual moment in the sun.
Yeah, I think we've all had products that came out a little bit before their time. Hopefully, you'll be able to. It may take longer to get the return on your investment, but hopefully, you'll still be able to get it.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that this notion of be careful listening to your customers, I want to just underscore that because. I used to tell my teams, don't listen to your customer, observe your customer.
That's a great call.
Because they're only going to tell you what they want, what they need in the context of what they know and what they think they want. Right. And that's where the power of observation and it's all those things around the problem that give context to the real insight.
Love it. Yeah. Like it very much.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So shifting gears once again, you've got such a wealth of experience. I guess I would love to know one best practice that you've created over the years that contributes to the most to your success and your team's success.
It's boring. My best practice. I find that I find that in our business that we just need to measure what we care about, and so whenever possible, we need to put data to the decisions we make. And I would think that I've done many wonderful team building exercises. I've created strong momentum within our business on several different initiatives over the year. But I think the lasting impact that I've had is taking the care to build systems of measurement that allow us to make better decisions a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. And so that's what really matters, I think, for me. Measure what you care about, and it helps you make good decisions.
Yeah, I love that. Can you give me an example of something that you measured that may not have been measured, or vice versa?
Just about everything. Everything in my business was not measured, but it's as simple as just honestly taking care to understand and go deeper within the usage stats that we have within our products. but it's also about where we spend our time as employees and what matters in terms of what's delivering an ROI for our business or not. And so, I think that, I find that as we've sort of set out and sharpened those inputs to our big data set, that measuring from when a data point is born all the way to how often it's used is really an important measure and a unique one for us to understand where we should be investing in that next set of data that clients care about, because that's an evolving beast as well.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Excellent examples. What is your why? Why do you do this role, and what is your underlying motivation that allows you to do your best work?
For me, I love the team that I have. And I would say that they are just some of the most brilliant people that I've ever worked with. And my why is really that I'm just trying to serve and shine a light on them and what they're doing. That's really what gets me up in the morning. I think it's that if I can find combinations of those talented people and what they bring to the table and match them with the problems that I see every day, that really, that's my favorite thing about this job. And I think that can be, really intelligent engineers who might not exactly know how to communicate what they need to communicate. That could be the frontline commercial staff trying to solve a client's pain point. Or that can be, some of my go-to-market folks who can, try to bridge that gap between multiple stakeholders. So, yeah, that's what gets me up in the morning for sure. It's making sure that those folks and all their hard work kind of gets showed off in the right way and is hopefully accessible to our clients.
Yeah, it all comes down to people. I love that. My last question, I'm going to dance into the AI, but through a different lens. I'm asking all of the chief product officers this year this same question. So I would love your perspective. And that is, what is the role of AI specifically in product management this year, right now? And how will that, in your view, evolve and be different 2 to 3 years from now?
I think right now AI's role in product management is in simplifying so many parts of the process. That's it. It really is just instead of A to B to C to D, it can jump from A to D in a rapid way. I think moving forward, the role of AI is probably going to manifest in two different ways. One, I think it's going to fundamentally change the user experience to one in which way more information is way more accessible to the end user. That's one. And then two, I think it's going to start to connect some of those dots, maybe not at the level of human intelligence, but I think it's going to start to connect some of those dots and fundamentally make certain tasks and certain links immediate. Things that used to take weeks or months can take minutes now. And that's super exciting. I think that same concept that I highlighted for some of our researchers is really what will end up happening for our clients on a larger scale. So very exciting.
Yeah. Do you see a future where product managers aren't needed?
That's a good question.
Putting you on the spot.
You know what? I think their roles just have to evolve, Renee. That's all there is to it, right? I think that the real power of generative AI is really it as a tool that enhances the roles that we have. And so I imagine that we'll still have product managers for years to come, but I think that the roles will sharpen, hopefully, as they have these tools and skills at their beck and call.
Yeah. They'll be spending less of their time on quote unquote busy work, and hopefully more of their time focused on what the next outcome that they can create for which customer is next, right?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's been fun having this conversation with you, Mike. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best. But again, just congratulations on being a finalist.
Thank you, Renee. Really enjoyed the conversation. Good questions.
Awesome.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.